Lisa, thank you so much for joining us on the Corporate Misfit podcast today, where we're going to discuss how you became a corporate misfit. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Brittany. I'm really excited to be here. I love that term, corporate misfit. That's a great one.
I love that you are a corporate misfit. You actually started your business at 50, and that means you have spent a good chunk of time in the corporate world and really know the ins and the outs that kind of come in when you are working for another business. So first off, for anyone who has no idea what it is that you do in the whole marketing and strategy side of things, can you explain to us, what do you do in your business today?
Sure. So Tira Strategies, my business, is a social media marketing company. And so I help really small to medium businesses with their social media strategy and their postings. And that's the area that I really focus on. I have to say, email and social media marketing for my clients. I've tried to branch out into other things and it just hasn't worked. So I try to really narrow that down. So many businesses don't know how to do social media well. And I do, and I like to help them. So that's what Tira does in a nutshell. It's super easy.
I love that. I love that. That is something that so many new entrepreneurs and even established companies struggle with, like using social media platforms properly and actually generating business from their social media and email marketing and things along those lines. So how did you go from sales and working with a newspaper and ad company to doing what it is you do today?
So that's a funny story. I actually say that I'm an accidental entrepreneur because I was never bitten by the entrepreneur bug. I didn't have these visions of starting my own company when I was in corporate world. And I worked many, many years in corporate world, both big companies and small companies. But what happened was I found the job at the newspaper that I loved. And in retrospect, I've always liked working for small startup type companies. That's been a better niche for me. And the large ones I just felt lost in. So I was at the newspaper for about a year and a half doing ad sales, and the paper decided to close, as they do. It was the time, and it was harder and harder to keep ad revenues up. So when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in my next step of my career, I looked around at other jobs. I was interviewing, and nothing struck me like my newspaper job. And I knew it would be really hard for me to find anything I loved that much. So I was chatting with my boss, and we had started running some social media campaigns on behalf of our clients. And I realized that our clients had no idea how to do social media. And I looked at my boss, I said, these companies can't do social media and I can. Maybe I should help them. Maybe I could start a business and help them. And so really 8 years ago, that's how Tira was born. And 8 years later, we're still doing the same thing, which is great. So.
Wow. And I love that you shift and changed, because social media, especially 8 years ago, is nothing to what it is today. I mean, it is so crazy because everyone thought, oh, social media is not going to take off as much as it did. And the phones started updating, technology started updating, and social media now is one of the number one ways for someone to get in front of their clients without having to go to an actual event to go see them and things like that. It's so powerful how social media has really transformed and helped in the business world. Wow. Okay.
That's true. And, you bring up so many good points in that, but 8 years ago, Instagram wasn't even on anyone's radar. It wasn't there. And 8 years ago, you could start a Facebook business page and people would flock to it because it was so new, and it's changed incredibly now. And what I love most about social media is, even though a lot of people are upset that it's harder to get organic growth, even if you spend a tiny amount of money, it's so much more of a cost-effective way to advertise your business, spending your time on social media, than any other venue or advertising platform you could do. And that's what I love about it. It's easy to reach people that you target and at a lower cost than anything else you could possibly do.
Absolutely. And firsthand, because you were working within ad sales. And so how much it costs to showcase your business, whether that be in a newspaper, a magazine. I mean, how much that costs. So yes, Facebook ads especially, you're like, wait, this is night and day.
I know, we were a small paper with very low cost ads. And even then, social media doesn't compare in terms of cost. So.
So when you decided to, go into social media and start working on strategies and building your own business, did you take any social media classes or training or anything along those lines to help you really establish yourself in this area?
8 years ago, nobody was doing it. So for me, someone said this and I love it. I have Google Foo. I Google everything and I still do. Every time someone asks me a question and I don't know, I'm like, I'll Google it. So a lot of it was just Googling everything. And now there are more classes, and I firmly believe in educating myself throughout my career. So every time there's a class that I think I would benefit from, I will take it, whether it's on ads, on Instagram, on Twitter, on, content, any of it, because I just love learning someone else's point of view, and I can always pick up information. And I give a lot of workshops and classes too, but I still love learning. So that, thankfully, learning's been, the things that you can find to teach you on social media and how to use it are much more plentiful now than they were when I started. Back when I started, there was nothing. So it was all, wow, this didn't work. I wonder why that didn't work. Let me go try and find the answers somewhere. And now there are so many more resources. So it's a little bit easier, but it changes constantly, and that makes it a little bit harder.
Absolutely. And yeah, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. I mean, there's so many changes consistently that I even got to a point to where I was like, how do people keep up with this? Like, who does this for them? Because this is crazy how it consistently changes, and being able to run your business and social media at the same time. It's sometimes that is a full-time job by itself. I don't think people realize that.
It can be. And what I do, I actually do workshops on this too, about how to use social media and not make it consume your life, because it can. And us entrepreneurs don't have the time to do that. So there are ways you can work your social media to not have it be so crazy. And I like to teach people those, because I always get, upset when I hear someone say, I can't do it, it's too time consuming. There are definitely ways you can make it work that it's not quite so time consuming.
Absolutely.
And I love showing people how to do that so that they can make social media work for themselves.
I love that. Now, when you were leaving the newspaper and you already basically kind of made a decision of, okay, I'm going to go into starting my own business, starting social media, did you have a chance to kind of build up your clientele before you left, or were you already done and you were basically out there to kind of just figure this out and make it work?
Luckily I had one of the clients that we had for our newspaper was opening a new restaurant in the area, and he needed help. So at about the time when the paper was going away, he needed some assistance. And I vetted this through my boss. It wasn't as though I was stealing him away, but I was able to have that one client that was a big client at first. And that was really helpful for me. Then I also did a lot of networking to get other clients too. So I was pretty lucky. I belonged to a local chamber and I got clients through that. And again, the restaurant client was helpful, and then there were referrals. So it worked well for me. And what I like about what I do is that everything with my clients is basically on a monthly retainer. So it provided a steady source of income for me. And that I appreciated too, instead of having a project, things that come in on a project basis, because that's harder to budget what you're doing. So that I was lucky with that, and it worked out well. And that client remained a client for years, which was neat. They opened a couple other restaurants, and I got to work with them on those too. So it
That's
worked
a
out well.
really beautiful silver lining, because I know you loved your job prior to, and I think that you being able to do social media as you fell in love with that, it's so interesting that you even had an opportunity to work with a client who worked with the newspaper. So that's so awesome of that silver lining of how that all worked out.
That did, that client, it was very helpful for me. I always say that my first year in business was nerve-wracking, and it's the best way to describe it. And having that client that was a big client was so much more helpful for me to do. And I see a lot of people starting out and building from scratch, and it's tough. Your first year, you're kind of clawing, unless you're incredibly lucky or incredibly something, you're just clawing your way through to try and make it to the point where you want. And I was very, very lucky with this client, who remains someone I stay in touch with, even though we're not working together. And it just worked out well for me.
Now, with the nerve-wracking side of things, did you make a business plan, or did you create any sort of roadmap of where you wanted to go with your business? I know you mentioned that you kind of dabbled and tried out different things within social media, and finally you narrowed it down. So what was your plan of action on where you wanted to take the company?
So, I hate to say, I would tell people not to do this, but I didn't have a business plan. I just kind of said, oh, now we're open. Yay, let's get more clients. And, I do have to say that for my first few years, I don't think that I assigned as much of a priority to growing my business as I needed to. I had a lot of family stuff going on. And for me, the flexibility in being able to be there for my family was key. So for about, I would say 4 years, my coach has accused me of treating my business as a hobby when we started working together. And I think that that was an accurate assessment. So in the past 3 to 4 years, I've definitely really gotten um, more consistent about having goals and having a plan and knowing where I want to go. And I have some tools that help me with that so that I can stay on track. I still don't have a business plan. I'm horrible. I'm not that person to develop one, but I do have a vision and I have goals that can lead me there. So I've gotten better over time in learning how to do that. I probably wouldn't recommend my way to most people.
I love it. But no, like what you said, like you now have goals and visions of how you want to get there. Like tonight, we have some corporate misfits who live in my area and I'm hosting a vision board party. But one of the things that I always find is that if business plans aren't for you, or if sitting down and really getting down to that nitty gritty, because sometimes it's going to change. So you have to be okay with that. But if that's not for you, perfectly fine. Creating like vision, having those vision, either vision board or just having those goal setting sessions with yourself, and really being able to see where it is you want to go and maybe what have you already accomplished. And that's so important. So no matter how you do it, it's no, if it works for you, if it's just the goal setting side of things, then that's what works. You know, if business planning is not for you, perfectly fine. As long as you know where it is you want to go, and creating that path for you is always important. So I love that.
Thank you, Brittany, for making me feel not bad about my lack of business plan.
No, you know, when I started my business, I always tell people I started with the business plan, but everything changed drastically. Like everything I wrote in that business plan did not go as planned. Like everything was off. And so I always tell people, like, whatever works for you, if you're a planner, go for it. But not everyone's a planner. And there's a lot of areas in my life, in my business, where I am unorganized. Like no one's, it's so embarrassing. I'm like, yeah, I'm so unorganized there. And if it wasn't for Rebecca, I'd be like, okay, I don't know how we're going to accomplish like 99% of things in our business today. So I love this. Now, you mentioned that you were overcoming some fears and that you, the first year of business was kind of like, woo. So how did you overcome some of the challenges and the fears that you were facing that first year of business?
I don't know if overcome is the right word. I think just worked through them. You know, it was just such a whole different arena for me to be in, being a business owner, being responsible for everything and not having a corporate job. So I just had to ride the wave and go along with it and know that, all I could do was keep plugging away and trying to get more clients. And as long as I did that and watched my expenses and kept my money going, I would be okay. So, yeah, I don't know that I overcame anything. I think that the more years I've been in business, the easier it is to run the business and the more I know about running a business. So it's become an easier process. And now 8 years in and having done this massive amounts of networking that I am very lucky in that I get a lot of referral business, and then the groups that I belong to have, have yielded some business for me. So what the work that I've done and put in years ago really just keeps building throughout the years. And I think that, any tip I could give people would be establish those relationships and network, because, I'll get a call from someone that I knew years ago. And this happened to me just last year. I got a call from someone I had networked with, probably 4 or 5 years ago. And she said, I have a referral for you. It was out of the blue. And that happens a lot. So you really just have to, I think, be genuine, be a good person, be interested in people, network, and then know that it's going to come back at some point too. And it will turn into something for you.
Now, networking is something that a lot of new entrepreneurs struggle with, because sometimes they're afraid to network while they're still working at their 9 to 5. They just want to make sure that they're not sharing too much to where it could get them in trouble. So what are some steps that you took originally with networking? Did you get on social media? Did you join local chapters within your area of where you live? Like, what did you do to help bring in clients?
Well, I'm in the Northern Virginia area, and we have got a ton of networking events. So through my sales job, I was actually doing networking anyway and was involved in a local chamber of commerce and some women's groups. So when that job went away and I started my job, I just kept going with it. And I'm always on the lookout for new groups that I think are going to be good fits for me. I love chambers of commerce. I've grown my business on chambers of commerce. I think they're fantastic. I'm very invested in helping other women grow. So I like looking for women's groups to network with. And so I found the National Association of Women Business Owners. I've been part of that for years. So, you just have to set a goal. Even now, we have kids who are in high school, and so my evenings are crazy, but I still make time to do 1 to 2 networking events in the evenings and then try and load up on mornings and afternoons. So there are networking events every time of day. You just have to find out what fits your schedule and drag yourself out there. You go even when it's rainy and disgusting, and go and try and make connections, and find that one to two people who I think I have good synergy with, whether or not they're going to be a business person or a referral partner or someone I collaborate with. So that's really my goal with it. But I think it's just look around, and the more networking events you go to, the more come to your forefront. So if you go to one, someone will say, hey, I know this great group here. You should go to this networking event. And oh gosh, and then I'm running on, but you mentioned social too. So there's also ways you can network in groups. I love building a presence in groups. I have my own group, but in other groups, I will find a couple that I enjoy and really maintain a constant presence in there so that people know what I do. And when they ask questions that are in my field, I can answer them. So I'm seen as an expert in those groups. So that's how I do my online networking.
I love both of those, just because first off, with live events where you're actually getting to build that relationship with people. I love that you mentioned that instead of just focusing on handing out business cards and here, I do this, you actually build one-on-one relationships with people where you are able to then identify if you might be a good fit for them, if they're a good fit for you, and then also see who else you could possibly help from that relationship you're building. And so I love how powerful that is, because a lot of people forget to mention or forget to think of, like, how can I build my presence? How can I grow my business? Going to live events. I know people love doing webinars and things like that, but having a live event and actually attending those things are so helpful. They're so helpful. And you can bounce ideas off of people, which I found. And I find, like, I make my business besties in these groups.
Yep, exactly. It's funny you say that, because I always get asked, well, how can I get more people in my group? How can I get more people to follow me on Instagram? And I'll say, every time you're in a network event and you need to be going to them, tell them to follow you on Instagram and join your group. My card even has, my group on there. Like, that's how I build it. I meet people in person, and then I foster those relationships online. And I know it would be a much harder route if I didn't have that in-person component of it. And I strongly believe that, and I tell everyone, even clients, I ask them, well, okay, this is what we're doing on social, but what are you doing in person to build your business? You have to do that. You cannot ignore that piece of it.
Oh, I love that. And that's true. Like, sometimes we get so worked up or focus on the social side of things, how many people are following us, how many people are liking our stuff, but we're not paying attention to, like, that relationship building in person. What meetup can you maybe do, or how can you connect with your clients, like, in person somehow, whether that be you invite them to a workshop that maybe you're attending that they could possibly learn from too. It's like, how do you stay connected with them? Because that human touch sometimes is no longer there in business. You're just doing everything, like, through online, through social media, and never really being able to really connect and build that genuine relationship sometimes. So I love that you mentioned that, because it's so true. Implementing just one strategy for some sort of in-person, whatever it may be, event, trade show, whatever, it allows you to really connect and be able to build that relationship with your customers and really be able to hear more. So I love that you do that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Now, what about what about managing your time? That's something that so many new entrepreneurs really try to figure out, especially in the beginning, going from working with a company and then coming into working for yourself. So how do you manage your time, and what are some things that you put in place in order for you to get things done?
So that is a funny question because until probably 2 years ago, I would have said manage time. What's that? I just pick things. And the problem with that was a lot of the stuff that I don't like to do is falling by the wayside. So I discovered a technique called Pomodoros. And essentially you put tasks into 25 blocks of time, set a timer, and at the end of it, you take a 5-minute break and then move on to the next task. So I play around with mine a little bit. I'm not quite that regimented, but I use Pomodoros to schedule everything. So I will make lists of what I need to be doing over the week in Evernote, and then I will move that into a Pomodoro task. And if I can complete it in 25 minutes, great. If not, it goes, it goes into another one another time. And so that helps me both plan my client work, the work that I have to do to grow my business, and the stuff that I don't love doing, because I know that I can work on it for 25 minutes and get it done. And then I don't have to be sitting there for 4 hours doing this thing that I hate because I just can't make myself sit down. So I've said that Pomodoros for me have been life-changing. It's really helped me organize it. And so I've even carried them into my personal life too. So with the boys, our lives are crazy. And so I have, sometimes for the evening, I'll do, well, I'm going to work this time and I'm going to do this here and this here. And it works well. And I have a time that I stop working every day and I do my Pomodoros right up till then. And then I know it's dinner time. So find a time management system that works for you. Don't do like I did and just think, oh, I'll do this today and this today, because then stuff never gets done and you're miserable on the weekends.
Absolutely. I know. I used to work every weekend. I don't know if this was you, but I used to work every weekend. And it wasn't until, like what you said, just kind of creating that schedule for yourself and really being able to block off time. That's when I noticed a major difference. And I noticed it also with other entrepreneurs, like when you set times for yourself of like, when are you going to work on this, how you're going to do it and get it done. It actually saves you time and you get that freedom that most of us are seeking and wanting,
Yeah, that's it. And the reason I started Pomodoros was because my family was complaining that I was working all the time, and I thought, oh man, I've got to do something about this. So yeah, you're 100% correct. Having it, being more regimented about my time made me more free. It's just a weird thing, but it works. So now it's very funny because someone will want to talk to me. I'm like, I have a Pomodoro for this. You can't talk to me now. You have to wait.
I love that. I love this because I'm like you. I actually have, like, when I'm getting dressed in the morning, when I will take my phone calls, it's a little crazy. And I know a lot of people sometimes are like, what are you doing? Your calendar looks so crazy. But I love doing that because it really does help me to say, turn off for a little bit, go sit down, make that phone call to your friend and check on them. Like, it allows me to like disconnect in certain ways too, and not spend 10, 15 hours a day just working, So having those breaks, it's so powerful.
It is, and you're right about the morning routine. I get up and I put meditate every morning in one of my Pomodoros, and then I put get my son to school, and then I put walk the dog, and I put take a shower, because I know how my morning's going to go. And if I didn't put meditate under that Pomodoro, I probably wouldn't do it. And that's important for me. So yeah, having that scheduled time really is just so powerful, and it makes my life so much better. And I think my quality of life better too.
I love that you have a morning success routine, because that is really important, especially as entrepreneurs, as we have so many things being thrown at us, our mindset. Sometimes we have our ups and downs in the world of entrepreneurship. So how did you develop your success morning routine with meditation or anything else that you might implement?
Well, so I say meditation, it's like a 5-minute thing for me. I am not a long meditator. I just can't do that.
Hey, but meditation's meditation.
Right? So I think I was challenged again by my coach to develop a morning routine, because I think mindset work is very important, and that's not something I've always been good at either. So, and I was seeing that I was short-tempered with the boys as time, as the day went on. And so I realized that I needed to somehow change what I was doing. And I was getting up with my kid and getting him to school, and it was crazy. And then the whole day was crazy. And so I needed to step back and say, okay, well, what do I want to do? I need to center myself before my day starts, because if I start with my 14-year-old, just the insanity of getting him to school, my whole day is going to be nuts. So I just needed to spend, a few minutes every morning. And I realized this, getting up before he does, centering myself, doing some affirmations, and getting in my mindset correctly, and having that calm before I started opening my computer and working. And I think it just happened to be, I was doing a, morning routine challenge. And I said, well, this is going to be my morning routine. And it evolved, and that's what it works out. And I tried listening to some longer meditations, and they're just not me. So mine is very short and it's very brief, but it somehow works for me.
I love that, because you're saying it's just to the point. It gets the job done, and it helps you start that morning off right, which I think is so powerful, because we all have different schedules. We all have different things going on in our lives. So whether it's a minute or 2 minutes or an hour, whatever it may be, just having that time for yourself at any point in time of the day, it's powerful. And I love that it's helping you to start your day off like more at peace and at ease, without it being so crazy. Cause that's what happens with most of us. We have like a crazy morning, and then our whole day is crazy.
Yeah, I know. And with the boys, it just can, when, they're up, and it's nuts in our house. So I really need that quiet time. And so for me, I don't need to sit with a cup of coffee and look out the window, but I need to sit and do some breathing and kind of tell myself how my day is going to go. So yeah, but yeah, it works well for me. And I think more and more people are seeing the value of meditating, of mindset work, and of having that calm before the craziness starts of your day. So I think as entrepreneurs, it's very important to be sure you've got that built in, so that you have a path for your day ahead, because you can get so caught up in just rushing around from thing to thing based on what your client needs, because as entrepreneurs, we want to make everybody happy. So starting off the right way, I think, helps me maintain a little bit of that calm during the day. Not all of it, but some.
I love that. I love it. That's me. I'm always like, I need to have something, because I am one of those people, I can go and not even think about it. And then boom, I'm like, why is my day like this? Why did this happen? So when you got started with your business, how long did it take for you to be able to really turn everything into a full-time gig and either replace your salary or be able to live just comfortably with what it is you're doing?
So for me, having those first 4 years, again, I was making money, but not really the kind of money I wanted to make in it. But again, I had family issues. I had a lot going on with my dad and my son. So there was a lot happening. So I would say, having been in business 8 years, I think the past 2 years, I've been much happier with my income level. Now, it doesn't take everybody 6 years to get there. Some people, it takes a little bit of time, but 2 to 3 years ago is when I really started focusing and having these income goals. So I think when you start focusing and make that important, you're going to be more successful than if you do what I did and just kind of meander along and think, well, maybe I'll make some money and maybe I won't worry about it. So, and not to say that I was in a position where I didn't have to worry about it, but we were a 2-income family. So I wasn't driving us into bankruptcy,
Yes.
by not doing that. But now, having more mindset work, having a coach that I work with, having a mastermind, all of this support has really helped me to get to a good place in my business. And I still want to get further and have more monetary goals, but I'm finally thinking, wow, I'm actually making decent money. I'm pretty happy with myself. So I had a really weird path. I don't know. Recommend that.
I love that though, because what happens sometimes, life happens. And sometimes we go into business and then things happen. Things can change instantly, and we have no idea that was going to happen. And being able to just say like, hey, the first couple of years is something I had to work on. And then finally I'm feeling this way about how much I'm bringing in and the income level. I mean, that's awesome, because sometimes what happens for us is that we forget to set those income goals. And I love that you're implementing that now, because in the very beginning, we don't really think about that. Like, I know I didn't think about that. I was like, I want to bring in 6 figures. Well, how am I going to get there?
Yeah. Yep.
Like, what am I going to do to help me get to 6 figures? And instead of like really coming up with a real goal of how you're going to get there, sometimes we just say this number and then we just keep going, and we don't think about like the process or what it will take for us in order for us to get to our goals and actually achieve that. So I love that you have income goals and you're doing this mindset work and masterminds and a business coach and things like that, because it's so true. Like, sometimes we need some help in that area. I know I did. And it's something that I think a lot of new entrepreneurs we kind of don't know. We don't know this stuff. Like, who tells you this?
You're right. And the funny thing was when I started, I just kept saying, well, I can just keep adding clients until I get to this income level. And the reality was, wow, I couldn't, because I finally, my client work was overtaking everything and I didn't have time, and I needed to take a step back and say, okay, with the income that I want to make, how am I going to make it? How am I going to break it down? If am I charging the right amount of money for my services? How many clients do I want to have that I can support? And then where do I want that other income to come from? So really taking a deeper look at that has been very beneficial for me, and knowing, what do I like about client work? What are the other ways that I can provide services to people and get paid for it and make this income level? So it's been a really interesting experience for me to see how that part of my business has shifted into doing things that are beyond straight up client work for me, but still in my field and in my area.
Oh, that's so beautiful, Lisa. I love this. I'm like, it's so beautiful, because it's true. I mean, being able to shift, you might be able to charge more, or you might see an area where there's an opportunity, and it just allows you to kind of make that shift in your business, and maybe not work as hard, or not necessarily not work as hard, but work as many hours or things like that. So I love that. Now, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think you have to be open to other aspects of your business. Like for me, I'm starting to hold in-person workshops because I think that might be a good way to bring in additional income every month. And that's an easy thing for me. So I think really just being open to all that's out there as an entrepreneur is helpful, in saying, that's interesting. Can I try that? Can I make it work? Would it fit in with what I want to do? So didn't mean to jump in, but just,
no, I love
I
this.
love the idea of being open to what comes your way and seeing if it's something that might work for you.
I love that. And when you sit down and you create those income goals, or whether it's an annual goal or a monthly goal, however you choose to do it, like you said, like, you can then identify, maybe events or something I can implement, or maybe I can do more webinars, or I could implement this, or I can implement that can really help me to grow my revenue in other areas that I didn't even think of before. So that's so powerful. And especially in the very beginning stages, we're trying to figure out, like, how do you bring in income? How do you know? I mean, it's like, okay, if I bring in revenue, is that necessarily going to me? No, right? You have to sit and actually plan that out. So then you can make sure you're pricing your products, your services right, everything, so that you can truly be able to profit and actually be able to live off of your business if you choose. So
that's very well put. Yes.
Now, if you could give advice to any entrepreneur who's looking to start their business and leave their 9 to 5, what would you tell them?
There's so many pieces of advice you can give people. I think for me, what's been instrumental is having support, especially the past few years, having a mastermind and a coach. And I would say, invest in getting support for you, and whether it's a coach or a group or whatever, but make a commitment to invest in that and spend the money, because I think that having that accountability is crucial. And without it, I don't think I'd be where I am now. And so whatever you do, spend money to be able to make money, I guess. Not by not having a plan for it, but the money that I spent on my coach has come back so many times in so many ways, and in what I'm making. And so get a coach, get a mastermind, get whatever you need to support, or have a group of friends that are kind of your board, as it were, to bounce ideas off of, but get that support, and get people that can hold you accountable to what you want to do.
That support is so powerful in the entrepreneurial world. Like, however you do it, it's so powerful, because like you said, you want to have that support system, because there's ups and downs in entrepreneurship. I mean, it's literally a roller coaster ride. There's some days where we're amazing, we feel great. And then there's other days where, like, the work that we're doing, is this even right? Are we even called to do this? Like, is this something we enjoy? So having those ups and downs, having that support system really can help you stay grounded, stay focused, and really help you get further along, versus trying to do it all on your own. I mean, we were not meant to do this all on our own. And so having that opportunity to connect is so powerful. Now, what is your favorite part about being an entrepreneur?
I think everybody says this. I love the flexibility. I love that I can take off and go be the chaperone for my kids' field trip if I want to, and not feel guilty about it. I love that I can spend Monday afternoon putting up Christmas lights, yesterday.
Did you already put them up? Oh my gosh. I'm like, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, after Thanksgiving, I'm going to have to put this thing up. I know the tree's coming. And I'm that person who never wants to take it down. I'm like,
I don't. So I read an article that said it's either happy people put up their lights early or people are happier when they put up their lights early. And I love the way my house looks with lights. So yesterday I'm like, darn it, I'm going to put up my lights. So I think that having the ability to, be home for my child when he comes home from school is a big deal for me. And then just be setting my own schedule and having the flexibility to do the stuff I want to with my family. You know, I can go visit my aunt and uncle up in New York and work from there if I need to, if they need anything. And I just really, I love that part of it. I also love, you know, being my own boss and not having anyone tell me what to do too. It's pretty nice.
same.
Right.
I love that. Well, Lisa, it has been an absolute pleasure connecting with you today and learning how you became a corporate misfit and started your business and really building your empire and doing what it is that you love. Can you tell us how we can stay connected with you?
Sure. This has been so much fun, Brittany. Thank you for having me. I've just loved chatting with you. Okay, so there's a few places to reach me. I am most often present in my Facebook group. It's called the Social Visibility Society. And in it, we talk daily about using social media for your business. And I have a Facebook business page, Tira Strategies, Tira Strategies. I have a website that I don't talk about a lot because it needs revamping. It's also tirastrategies.com. And those are the best ways to find me. Thanks, Brittany. This has been so much fun. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you so much, Lisa.